Water demand is continually rising. Population growth is actually the third driver. The second driver is agricultural products, particularly agricultural products that are used to feed cows and other sources of protein. That consumes even more water than rising population growth. And the number one driver of demand for water is goods and services that contribute to quality of life. It takes hundreds of gallons of water, for example, to make a smartphone. A lot of people don't think about that, but that's the biggest driver. So as population grows and demand for better nutrition grows and rising quality of life around the globe, which are all good things, this accelerates the demand for water. And yet, freshwater supply is fixed, doesn't really change. So there's been kind of posited this idea that we're getting to a place of peak water. And obviously it's in the news now around California, but it's certainly issues in many other countries around the world, China, India, et cetera. So how do these two things come into harmony? Can it be strictly through conservation? No, actually conservation is one of the least impactful results. I believe, however, that technology and innovation in business models and other sources of innovation will actually bend the curves of demand and supply, will bend the demand rise down, and will bend the supply up so that the two won't crash into each other. How do we do that? In the technology realm, for example, desalination is a huge industry and now growing very quickly. It was rather stable for many years, but now due to technology innovation that comes from places like Israel and also Massachusetts, it's becoming much more cost effective. And this is now bringing new potable water into geographies that were starved for water. Desalination, recycling of water, drip irrigation with big data, and things like smart water networks. All these things have the effect of ameliorating demand or increasing supply. We cannot only look to fresh water as the source, but we can look to other sources and we can moderate demand. So that's the promise and the opportunity or the challenge. And it is largely due to technology innovation. So when you say to people, wow, Massachusetts is a source of water innovation and technology for the globe, people are like, I'm surprised, how could that be? You guys have enough water, why would that be? Well, the answer is because we have the brain power and the capital and the confluence of an industry. In the same way that you look at any other multinational industry that is headquartered in Massachusetts, like life sciences or data storage and companies like EMC, 99.9% of their customers are not in our state. Why are they here? It's not because the customers are exclusively here, but it's because the brain power is here. Because MIT and UMass and Harvard are here. Because there are, in the case of water, companies in our state like Coke Membrane or Watts Water that are many hundreds of millions or billions of dollars company. They're here because of the talent and the capital and the education, the workforce. So interestingly enough, a lot of the development and ongoing advancement of desalination, even though there's only 2 plants in the state of Massachusetts and they're small, 2 public plants, actually comes from Massachusetts. So Coke Membrane is a company that, for example, was founded by one of the Koch brothers. He graduated from MIT and water was his cause. And now there's this huge company just selling membranes and related products to industries that need clean and abundant water. Watts Water is a $1.8 billion water technology company. In fact, most people don't even know it, but they have Watts Water valves in their house. So there's an enormous number of companies, large and small, dozens and dozens and dozens of startups focusing on every aspect of water treatment, from agricultural technology to recycling, irrigation, all kinds of different things. So really we bring innovation to the world, local innovation and global impact. So an important gap in water technology globally and locally, it's really no different locally than anywhere else in the world, is venture capital doesn't really focus on the water technology sector yet very much. They're focused on apps and consumer products and enterprise software and robotics and life sciences and things like that. Water technology hasn't made it into the top tier in that realm, and that will take some time. On the other hand, there are important firms here that do focus on water. For example, Flagship Ventures is an investor in a very prominent startup here called Oasis Water, or the desalination plant that is being built in California now, which will be the largest plant in the Western Hemisphere. It's been in the papers a lot. It's in Carlsbad, California. It's taking technology from Israel, which is well proven there, and is being financed and developed by a Massachusetts firm called Poseidon Water, a $1 billion plant, funded here from Massachusetts, being deployed in California. And now that company is doing other plants elsewhere in California and Florida and Texas. So we do have sources of capital here. Another venture capital firm and project finance firm here in Massachusetts called Liberation Capital is investing in water technology companies locally and around the globe. So we have seeds of that, but in general there needs to be more investor awareness to see the opportunity for return on risk capital of water technology investments. So there is a common understanding that there is conflict over water, and that these conflicts are not only sometimes within a border, for example on Cape Cod, where people need clean water, but also across borders, the tri-state water wars in the south or in the west, but also between countries, between Singapore and Malaysia, or in the Middle East. If there's scarcity of water, that's what's going to happen. How do you solve problems of scarcity of water? Exactly what two great countries have done, Singapore and Israel. Singapore and Israel basically were in situations with their neighbors where they were contesting over the same water, and it was resulting in threats and sometimes fights. So those are well documented. Both countries, Singapore and Israel, said to ensure that we have the water we need for our population and to reduce conflict with our neighbors, we will become water independent. How did they do that? By technology, through desalination, through recycling, through drip irrigation, through big data and smart water networks. Now, Israel, if you look at a map from outer space at the Middle East, you will see countries full of brown sand. Israel is now a green country. From outer space, it is green because they have created their own sources of water to satisfy their population and are now basically have become a net water exporter. They ship carrots to Russia because they can do it cheaper and better, including shipping for a seriously commodity product like carrots. They can ship it better and faster. And in essence, when you ship agriculture, you're shipping water in the form of a fruit or vegetable. So they've become a net water exporter. They're now in agreement with Jordan and the Palestinian Authority to basically build a shared water infrastructure around the Dead Sea and the Red Sea. So Singapore has done the same thing, created water independence for itself and created some safe distance between them and their neighbor Malaysia, who was kind of holding it over them. Water technology has the promise and opportunity and some great proven examples to ameliorate water conflict. So I think that's one of the roles that Massachusetts can play in the global water technology industry. Very similar to the life sciences industry. We are arguably the life sciences capital of the world. The reason is all these companies from around the world have come here to be close to our brain power and the concentration of our industry. It's not because they're trying to sell to us. They're trying to capture what we have and then export from here. Same thing is starting to happen here with water. We are successfully beginning to attract companies from Israel and from other geographies that want to be part of our ecosystem, that want to basically join the Newen cluster. That's the role we hope to play, is to both be the source of innovation and the home away from home for innovation. I think our industry association, Newen, has done a great job of coalescing the industry, for example, at events like the SWIM conferences the Symposium on Water Innovation of Massachusetts, which has brought together a wide range of people, whether it's academic or government or startup or big company or finance, policymakers, all under one umbrella to say, okay, how do we work together to make this industry fly and so that we can serve global markets? We're part of a global ecosystem. We can make our own home sing, and we also have to influence the world as well. We have to get our story out to the world. And we also have to figure out how to move the needle in certain areas to say, we're going to concentrate on certain sectors or certain problems to solve and say, we're the experts, for example, in nitrogen and its effects on water, or we're the experts in desalination because we have so much great coming out of MIT in that area. So it's about focusing on the things that we do best and then offering that to the world so that they see us as the center of gravity for those areas. Right, I'm a big believer in big data as applied to water. It's an amazing process to get water from its source to homes and businesses, but we know very little about that process, right? So, for example, where are there leaks in the system? Where is their infrastructure likely to fail? When do the plants actually need the water as compared to just watering it on a certain regular schedule? Drip irrigation is a wonderful technology by targeting where the water goes, but you still don't know if the plant actually needs the water or if the plant needs the fertilizer. Marrying those two together by measuring the soil and then applying the water, that's another example of big data as applied to water. Big data is also relatively more affordable to develop than infrastructure. And infrastructure is a big cost that investors don't want to bear and governments don't want to bear. So can we make our infrastructure go further through the use of big data?